Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Ink and Bytes podcast. I know last episode was a bonus episode, and I was really just talking about Destiny and saying thank you to the studio for making such an amazing experience and basically charting my dream job career course. And this episode is a little bit more special. It is about Destiny again, so that's awesome. I love talking about the game, and I have a good friend with me here who is also a author, and we're both narrative nerds, and we like to talk about the story of the game and the twists and turns it's taken. And I'm sure we're gonna have a very intense discussion across various points. But as normal, I will let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I am the real Shin Malphur, not the fake one. The fake one, Liquid Shin, is very real, and he is coming for you. So if you see him outside the studio door, if you see him outside the window, know that it already is too late. That's at least the name I go by in Destiny anyway. I figured since it's kind of the Destiny sode that I'd give you that one.
I like it.
Plus, I'm gonna talk a bunch of big game about me playing raids. So if anybody wants to raid report me, they can absolutely do that. And you can just use the real Shin Malphur spaces, not all one word.
They're not prepared. They're not prepared for your raid report.
Like, I mean, if they wanted to, if they want to be like, this guy's talking out of his ass, then I could be like, I've got the stats to back it up. I'm not gonna lie about anything here. There's no point. So
yeah. And I also, to the audience out there, this is the first podcast that I'm doing very late at night / in the morning because of my night job. So get ready for a little bit more delirium, but that's fine. It feeds in perfectly to what we're talking about. Because
about 21% delirium, 87% ennui.
Exactly. But yeah, and you're a writer too, right? You can talk about that a little bit if you wanted.
I got my edits back on my most recent short story this week. My editor found my revision to be quite effective. We're going to be working on some more in-depth, sort of stylistic sentence level revisions at this point, but I'm very happy with where that's landed. I'm also working on a novel it is also under revision, but I'm making some big changes, and frankly, I'm in a funny spot with where that's at right now. So, kind of just taking this opportunity to really get the process down with something that's smaller. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so we both love narrative and stuff like that. So perfect two people to be talking about this. I'm just gonna get right into it because I need structure this late in the morning.
I love it when you talk to the invisible third party that's not here. you talk about us like I'm not sitting right here across from you.
Hey, I'm tired. Okay, bear with me. It's liquid. It's liquid.
Who are we? Who? Wait, where?
It's too late. He's already in the walls.
And I hope it got that.
But I'm going to just throw out, I know you said you have a bunch of notes, so I'm curious to see what you want to talk about, what you have written down.
I have 7 pages of notes.
Which is wild. It made me feel super underprepared when you had 7 pages.
You made the mistake of showing me the outline. So I was like, okay, I'll just do what I do. I'm a writer. I'll do what I do. So, I guess it's probably fair for me to talk about what my experience with the game is, because, you might be wondering, who's this schlub? Why do I care what he has to say? Why do I want to listen? So,
exactly, that is the first question.
Actually, something quite interesting that not a lot of people are ready to hear is that I was a Destiny hater. For D1, I was like, this game is stupid. This is a terrible concept. Why would you ever, any chance that I had to really sink my claws into the game and disparage it for any reason, I would take it. I was a Warframe fanboy during that period, so they were kind of in direct competition. Warframe is the only Destiny killer that's still around, so I figure, it hasn't quite killed the franchise or anything. Bungie's doing a brilliant job of that themselves. But as for Warframe, it's still sticking. But I got Destiny 2 for free, actually, as a digital attendee of BlizzCon in 2018. And at that time, I was going through some stuff. I mean, I was falling out of love with Warframe, and I was going through a bit of a writer's renaissance, and I was just kind of looking for something new to take my attention. I tend to play these MMO type games and just bounce from one to the other. Like, I guess before Destiny, I was an Overwatch player, and I don't want to talk about my Overwatch career because that's not worth talking about. But I was falling out of love with Warframe. I was falling out of love with Overwatch, and I just needed something new to put thousands of hours into. And I came into the game at the launch of Forsaken, and I didn't play D1, I didn't play vanilla, and I was lucky enough. And it's funny that I have to say this. I was lucky enough to play the Red War. I did not have to suffer the modern New Light experience. And Forsaken, I mean, it's one of those touchstone moments of the franchise, like Taken King and like Witch Queen and Final Shape. Like these are all big deal expansions. And I did play from the beginning. I played all of the content in order. I didn't jump around. So, I mean, it took me a second to get to where we were in Forsaken. But by the time that I had completed the campaign, I was like, okay, when do we get to the raids? I want to do the raids because that's Destiny's thing. I mean, for those of you, I figure if you're watching this, you probably play Destiny, so there's no point. But the last time I checked, only something like 18% of the player base has ever cleared a raid. So if you've never cleared a raid, dude, the point of Destiny is the raids. That is the point.
I didn't know that stat was so low. I thought it was higher than that.
Yeah. No, it used to be lower. And then Pantheon came out, and people started doing Pantheon, and they were like, wow, this is, they might do Atrax and Oryx, and they were like, oh, this is super easy. And they're like, well, so the regular raids are even easier than this. And then we started to see that clear number go up as well. After Root of Nightmares was released, that's a lot of people's first raid, I think. Now, my first raid was Last Wish because I'm hardcore like that. But Ron is so easy. I mean, it really is. If you haven't cleared Ron and you're curious about doing a raid, if that is the one to start with. It looks intimidating. Third encounter can be a stickler, especially in LFG when your team's kind of a crapshoot. You don't have to bleep that, by the way. Craps is a real game. So
don't worry, I wasn't going to anyway.
The point is that if you're curious about a raid and all you have to rely on is LFG, do Root of Nightmares, because that's the one that really started to bump those player numbers up in the first place. We went from 8% of the player base to about 12% after Ron came out, and then up to 18% or so by the time that Pantheon dropped, because there was just more exposure on these encounters,
Yeah, that makes me feel significantly better about the fact that I don't raid as much as I used to, because I was like, yeah, I'm sure at least half the community is clear to raid, but 18% is like...
No, it's a tiny number. It's a tiny, tiny number. You'd be surprised. I was floored.
No, that's interesting.
You can actually tell. Let's see here. Well, actually, I guess you used to be able to tell. There was a way. Oh, how do I do it? Basically, if you go to your Destiny achievements and you look at, I think it's called Wishing for the Best. Yeah, this one for clear the Last Wish raid. It's the only one that it's the only raid that gives you an achievement. And if I look at it, it still only says 7.1%. So only 7.1% of the global player base, because the game isn't available on Battle.net anymore. It's only available on Steam. Or I guess that's the global PC player base, because it's only on Steam and then console. So I guess this number is probably attenuated a little bit for console. I'm a PC player, so all of my figures and stuff are tailored to the PC crowd. But 7.1% of players on PC have cleared Last Wish. That's nothing. That's none.
That makes me feel even better about the 3 times I actually did do it. That's funny.
Well, you haven't played with me, so I haven't forced you to play Riven legit yet. Best encounter in the game. I love it so much.
Maybe next time it's on rotation. I've got to try it. I still need to do more of Salvation's Edge, but before we get
Doing the
down,
Napster tomorrow. Wish me luck.
oh yeah, good luck. I know that's going to be a gruel.
Yeah.
But before
And
we
we're
get
doing the
too
Witness
far
Challenge.
into our raids already, but we will talk about raids because I want to talk about.
So I've got more. I have to rep my clan because I love my clan. But this is my last point on my notes for this topic. I joined Sample Text. Shout out to Sample Text. Love Sample Text. So that I could take the game more seriously. And we've cleared literally hundreds of raids. Flawless raids, low man raids. Our clan has cleared every day one raid that has come out since Deepstone Crypt, and I've participated in 4 of those clears personally.
Awesome. That's pretty sweet. I tried one day one, and then I realized I'm not doing it again. But then again, I did also have Mobius Quiver with primary ammo finder. So
you have to be a special kind of insane to do a day one. I've participated in 4 clears. We usually field between 2 or 3 teams. And so sometimes I was on the team that cleared, sometimes I wasn't. But I've participated in every one since Deepstone except for Crota because I was busy with school. And all of them have been endeavors. I mean, we were in Vow for 32 hours and my team didn't clear that. And we were in Salvation's Edge for 38.
That's intense.
I did have to bail on Salvation's Edge, which I feel bad about, but there was kind of some important family stuff that was going on literally the next day, and I couldn't miss it. I had to go.
And sleep is important.
So I needed to kind of make. Oh, I didn't sleep. Don't get me wrong. I didn't sleep, but I did need to make a judgment call. And unfortunately, if you weigh real life and video games, real life has to come first. So.
Oh yeah, totally. I was Edge. Salvation's Edge. Is it Edge of Salvation or Salvation's Edge?
Wait. Never mind. It is Salvation's Edge.
Salvation's Edge. Okay, I keep reversing that name. It's great.
Nobody is edging here.
No one's edging. Everyone's edging in the raid, though. I was in that raid. I haven't been in a raid for longer than 5 hours, probably since Destiny 1, like Wrath of the Machine. Yeah, Wrath of the Machine. So the fact that I was in my first Salvation clear for like 8 hours was like.
Did you participate day one or?
Oh God, no.
Was this after? You were in an 8-hour raid after?
Yeah, it was a Chaperone. Everyone
honestly,
was learning.
I'm not surprised. My team, when I got back, I was gone for 2 days, and then we started the Sherpa runs right after that. We took routinely more than 6 hours to get even one person over the finish line. I mean, my team, our philosophy is probably, it gets in the way of that clear timer a little bit. In our mind, it's if we're Sherpaing somebody, they need to do the mechanic. We're not going to put them on ad clear and just let them go. And Salvation's Edge, at least
everyone's always doing something.
At least 3 of those encounters. Yeah, everybody's doing something. No, 4. There's 5, right?
Yeah, there's 5.
Yeah, so every encounter but first, you can have somebody doing something because Verity's random, so.
Verity is, oh God. But your introduction into Destiny is kind of similar to mine, but instead of Destiny 2, Destiny 1. You already know mine, so I'm going to keep this short, but just so everyone else knows, I came into Destiny during the Taken King era. I also was a Warframe nerd. I played Warframe before Destiny because it was a poor man's Destiny to me because I was younger. I had to beg to get games. And I came in and I did the same thing. I played Destiny 1 vanilla campaign. Couldn't really tell you how I felt about it. I mean, it existed. Couldn't tell you the story that much. I can tell you now, but at the time I was like, I'm just shooting aliens. And then I played through the 2 expansions, then played through Taken King. And Taken King was such a big influence on me. I remember being really excited to get home off the bus to do the Chaperone original exotic quest, which is significantly better than Destiny 2's Chaperone quest. It actually didn't have any PvP steps. It had strike steps, which is kind of funny.
Imagine using the Chaperone in PvE.
Yeah, literally.
You'd be laughed out of the fire team, bro.
It wasn't that bad in D1, but now it is. And the original quest didn't have any PvP steps. It was all like Like it had special
That's
missions
crazy.
in
I
Destiny
I
1, yeah.
can't even conceptualize the Chaperone as a PvE weapon. Like that's just fundamentally incompatible in my head.
No, it was crazy. Destiny 1 was just a wildly different ecosystem. But played through that, and then what was it? Rise of Iron came out, and I always have a hot take. I always tell every Destiny person about this. I personally think Rise of Iron was the best Destiny 1 expansion. I will die on that hill. I played that raid like hundreds of times, and then Destiny 2 came along. I got peer pressure to buy it on PC. Everyone who peer pressured me to buy it ditched the game, clearly, which is understandable because Destiny's an acquired type of game, and Destiny 2 vanilla was very eh. And here we are, thousands of hours later. I definitely have a lot less raid experience in D2 than you do, but
What's your total play time? I'm curious. What does Steam say you have?
Almost 2K, I think. So,
I'm at 2,809 and a half, and I know for sure that I had a couple hundred on BattleNet, so I'm pretty sure.
oh,
that I'm
BattleNet
over
time
the
didn't
3,000
transfer,
mark.
right?
Yeah, no, it didn't transfer.
So I'm definitely
So we probably have more than it shows, but
I'm at least 3K
I've got
then.
about
At least. Because I played the shit out of Curse of Osiris because there was Curse of Osiris. I promise we'll get to the narrative. But Curse of Osiris introduced the first exotic ghost, and you had to do an unhealthy amount of grinding.
I did it.
Oh, yeah.
I got the Secure Shell legit.
Yeah.
I also got the Telesto Catalyst legit, which involved doing all the prophecies.
It's painful.
Bruh. So doing the prophecies, fun fact, doing the prophecies in a post-Forsaken sandbox, where you had guns that had multiple perks per column and had 3 perks. Yeah, those prophecy weapons didn't. They were static rolls with less perks than world drops. So no matter what, you were getting something that was useless. And I did them all just so I could get Telesto Catalyst.
That is some true commitment to the craft.
Yeah, it was bad. You get Segura Shell as a side effect from that quest, I believe, as well.
Yeah, it's a good shell. I also should note beforehand that a lot of the conversation is probably going to be related to the recent expansion, The Final Shape. If anyone is listening is a Destiny player and hasn't played it by now, run away and play it. It's like
full spoilers.
Spoilers. Like the first question is literally just going to be talking about the end. So full spoilers. And if you're new to Destiny and don't know much about the lore, this might be a little confusing, but you're welcome to stick around. The game has a great story, hidden under crappy business decisions. But we're going to jump right into the first actual question related to narrative. Now that everyone knows we're kind of nerds for this game and its story, what is your overall takeaway and feelings of The Final Shape? First off, non-narrative. I guess I jinxed it. We're doing non-narrative first.
I got you. Well, the gameplay felt good. That's the thing Destiny does best. Destiny's great at 2 things, even when the story's bad, because the story has been bad. Lightfall existed. I'm so glad we're not talking about Lightfall. You would not be able to release that episode.
That's where I got you. This episode's actually all about Lightfall. I'm kidding.
Anyway, so yeah, gameplay feels good. Destiny's got the juice. There's something about just the flow that feels good. Not a lot of games can get that down. I mean, even Warframe, the thing with Warframe is that it doesn't feel as skillful. You're going around nuking everything as fast as you can. It's not about precision. There's no strategy. It's less mechanically intensive because your abilities kind of take away 90% of the worth that you would get from aiming, whereas Destiny's kind of more about the gunplay. But campaign felt good. Even if the legendary difficulty definitely felt like it had been scaled back from Witch Queen and Lightfall, I didn't mind that they scaled back the patrol zone difficulty, but it's just highlights how weird of a decision that is to make the Neomuna patrol ads like master light level, which is super weird. If anything, I actually would have expected that to be here on the Pale Heart. You know, it would be like, this is the witnesses, like this is his elites. This is the guys that were strong enough that you haven't killed them yet. Like these guys are high level business. And so, I mean, I kind of would have expected it to bring the tooth here. I think that there were 3 fights that I had to sit up for. The first was the one in the cave where you had to run to both sides and collect the spikes that were always witness in Big Ship, and you have to then kill the tormentor in the middle. And there's like splinter mines and stuff. That one I had to sit up for on all 3 classes, and then the one with the big mind in the ice, that one on Titan was so hard. That Titan, I'll get to my feelings on Titan. Yeah, I breezed through in a Warlock. I sat up for Hunter, and then I was taking. It took me like 2 or 3 tries to get through on Titan. As for the last one, that last witness fight, that fight is so good. Like I generally raise an eyebrow at boss fights that don't involve fighting the boss, but I also didn't really ever expect that we were going to be able to shoot the witness and hurt him in any meaningful way. So I think that was fine. Destroy Us has become a little bit of a meme around my clan. I liked to see the integration of mechanics, but I don't think they went far enough. This is my first hot take. I think that it was a good start, but I would have preferred more on this front than just clocks and Ron nodes. Like the stuff that's in Dual Destiny is really good. Like you can play Dual Destiny with somebody who isn't super good at or experienced at raiding. They don't know a lot of mechanics, and you can get that done under the time limit. It's fine. Or maybe, something involving the spherical pyramid hexahedral resonance that's in the raid. Just anything that involved those mechanics would have been nice. It's unfortunate that the mechanics that we got were Ron spikes and clocks, but it's a start. If anything, it makes me wonder if we're going to see an increased mechanical sort of emphasis in future content, which honestly is going to need every edge that it can get. I think Prismatic is great for everyone but Titan. This is the part where I talk about Titan. Everything on Titan stands alone. And the thing with Prismatic Titan is that it's fine, but it's not great. You can get powerful abilities on Prismatic Titan. It has all the right supers. It has all the right grenades. Its Transcendence grenade isn't super great, I don't think, because it bounces, but that's just me. I'm sure that that's less of an issue for people who are experienced with playing with grenades that bounce, but I don't. So
same.
For me, that kind of adds a little bit of randomness to the ability that I don't like. You can build the triple consecration Fire Slam build, which is great, especially if you run it with Pyrogale, and that can be good. But it's not like on Hunter, you have Nighthawk Golden Gun and Still Hunt, which is 33% nerfed as of the recording of this video. But you could do, when Still Hunt Nighthawk first came out, you could do 8 million damage to the witness with it, which is, for those of you who are playing along at home, insane. Actually crazy. It was almost 1 million damage a trigger pull. Like,
yeah, that's insane.
It was crazy. And you could proc that 3 or 4 times during a damage phase. So, I mean, that was nuts. And the thing is, the trade-off that with that build, if you're using it on Prismatic, which I don't think necessarily is the play, but if you're doing it on Prismatic, which you can, the trade-off is survivability. So you can have your mix and match abilities and your DPS, but you lose out on being able to keep yourself alive. But you also, on Hunter, have the Liar's Handshake, punch a guy and get a dozen buffs build, which if you haven't tried is very silly. If you run the one that gives you, God, what does it do? It like gives you frost armor for punching somebody with who's got a darkness debuff or something. And then you run the one that gives you radiant. You can get frost armor and radiant and heal yourself with knockout. And if you kill them, because it's combination blow, or not knockout, combination blow is what it's called. If you use combination blow, now you're healing and you're amplified. So you're amplified, radiant, and you have frost armor at the same time, which is crazy. And not to mention that your punch does like 80,000 damage. So you're punching harder than a Titan, which is sad. and you have all of the builds that you want. Whereas on Warlock, you get Devour, Heal, Nade, and Phoenix Dive, and everything that was good about Strandlock without being Strandlock. The number one thing that holds Strandlock back is the fact that it's Strandlock. So you get Needle Storm, you get the throw out Threadlings when you use your class ability, which you can use on Phoenix Dive, by the way, and it's really fast. And you get the Threadling Grenade as well, which if you use that combo with Euphony, goes insane. So yeah, I mean, Prismatic for everybody but Titan is great. The Raid, this is no, it's not. The Raid goes crazy. I actually didn't think Bungie could cook that hard. I was pretty pessimistic about the game going into this expansion. I was feeling pretty rough. I was feeling pretty down. Our expectation was that we were going to get a nothing burger raid, and we breezed through the campaign. We were like, well, is that it? Where'd the last 2 years go? And then we got into the raid, and I was like, hey, I think we found where those 2 years went. So, and the thing that makes me think this is Verity. We actually don't, or at least I certainly didn't think that the engine was even capable of giving us Verity. I've never seen anything like it. That just completely defies everything about previous styles of mechanics, about what I thought was possible to do in a raid, and throws it away. Whoever on Sony's Crisis team is responsible for this, because I'm not 100% convinced that Bungie thought of that. I don't know if I want to kiss you or throw you down the stairs. So, I mean, whoever you are out there, my hat's off to you. You made me feel strongly. I dreamed about Verity for 2 or 3 days during the period where we were Sherpaing, and we would just get stuck for hours in Verity. And I mean, now I can kind of, they've got the calculator. I know how Inside works. Like, I could do Verity no problem now. But like when that came out, oh my God. I remember when we were in day one, we got up to Verity, and the only teams that we were aware of who were ahead of us were the guys who had cleared, Salta Greppo, all the players, and Datto. So like we were basically fifth globally, and that's crazy. But I don't think we would ever, because of what was going on with the streamers hiding their screens from each other, which I have a totally opposite take from you on this. So yes. I'm not going to get into it.
It's okay.
I'm not going to get into that, but I think that we probably weren't going to clear that encounter, at least until somebody who had done it like actually posted a video of the footage. Given if we had played the full 48, I think we could have gotten a challenge clear, but I don't think that we would have gotten a day one clear. Not at all.
There's nothing in the game. Yeah, there's nothing in the game that remotely resembles Verity. Like, they never experimented with anything close to that. Like, the closest thing is like Vault and Last Wish. But like the fact
Vault
that
is easy by comparison.
Like, I'm not scared of Vault anymore. Like the dissecting mechanic and the shapes and all of that stuff. Also, it's really funny because I know that encounter as the LFG killer, because you're asking people to really communicate and deal with shapes, when most LFGs I've ever been in, someone's high. So
I'm usually high when I raid. I mean, it's really, if you can't do the raid while you're high, you're not really doing the raid.
It depends on the person, right? Like, Yeah, no, I mean, doing that encounter high is a totally different experience.
Like Rock Lee taking his training weights off when I play sober. Like,
you need to be high to get through Verity. It's insane. Did you have any other thoughts on the final shape non-narrative?
I mean, as far as gameplay goes, the episode's system frustrates me, but that I think is a topic, so I'm not gonna spoil that.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah,
but otherwise, I mean, the episode system feels like I was gaslit, so I mean, we'll get to that.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. I have exactly the same. That's what's gonna happen. You're gonna give a really good explanation. Be like, yeah, I feel the same, because we pretty much feel the same on 90% of this game, which is good. I think I was a little less pessimistic. I'm really easy to get hyped up. Like it is a flaw. Like I seen to my credit, the first trailer they released of the final shape, I was like, oh, that's cool. But the VDoc where they released Prismatic and the Dread and all the other stuff, I was like sold right when I seen that trailer. I'm like, they cooked. So going into the
Yeah,
final
I
shape, I was very
remember.
excited.
I remember everyone in my clan posting the picture where it's all the dread on the ridge line, and I think everyone who posted it said they cooked. They did it. Like they actually did it. The madmen.
Yeah, no, it's the entire community sentiment. I've been through pretty much every up and down from Taken King onwards, and Lightfall was quite literally, I think, the worst I've ever felt
Oh, it was
in terms of
bad.
community sentiment. So I'm glad that they cooked, but I did go into Final Shape really excited for it. Like I said, I feel pretty much the same about the campaign. The only boss I really had to set up for myself was the second to last mission, the giant abomination.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah,
fight right before the witness,
that one actually took me like
where
an
the
hour.
Five of Swords was under the thing. Yeah,
Yeah, that one was rough just because I got killed by bullshit multiple times. But I feel
that fight's
exactly
got
the
a lot
same.
going on. I mean,
It does. I died actually running away, like at the very end of the mission, and I was gripping my desk. I'm like, you better have a
that's
checkpoint.
so sad. Did it have a checkpoint? I mean, don't leave me
Oh yeah,
hanging.
it did. It had a checkpoint, and I died
Okay,
from
I
a
was gonna say
classic Bungie moment.
if you had to do it again after doing the encounter successfully, and then you just die to it like a stray projectile, that would be where I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna pick this up tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
Like I'm not gonna do that
and it
again.
wasn't even like my fault. Like I never stopped holding the shield block, the sword block. It literally was like it dropped it for no reason.
Yeah, you probably ran out of energy. I bet
Yeah.
you weren't square on the crack.
Oh, well, I wasn't square. I was circle.
Yeah.
Badootish.
Oh, wait, I was trying. Ah, you can't do this to me. You can't send me back.
You can never escape Verity.
It's all Verity all
It's
the way
all
down.
Verity. Yeah, so I guess we'll move on to the next one. This is kind of the meat and potatoes for us personally. I have a lot more to talk about on this, but what is your overall feelings of the final shape narratively speaking?
I think the story is my second favorite behind Witch Queen. Witch Queen had more oh shit moments. Like there were times during Witch Queen and in the Vow of the Disciple raid where I was just like thrown. Like when the Hive had the light, I was like, "Oh, duh. No wonder they're better. They're better guardians than we are because their shape is mutable. Like their bodies can change to better channel the light. They are objectively better than we are." And that never clicked as an idea to me before. I mean, even when they revealed Hive light bearers as a concept in the marketing material for Witch Queen, that idea didn't sink in for a while. And then when the Traveler warped into the throne world, I was like, it's a no-brainer. The Traveler is selfish. It's out for its self-preservation. Note that this was before Season of the Seraph. So the cutscene where it goes up and almost gets blown up by the Warsats, that hadn't happened yet. So we hadn't actually seen the Traveler take a stand before. And at the time, I was like, well, this is duh. If I was the Traveler and I could hide in a demiplane, no brainer. Yeah, I'm going to do that. So I mean, that was that, and then Zeta finding out that the Hive are manufactured, that all of the Syzygy story was a lie, and that Rolk tricked everybody. Learning who the witness was for the first time was up there with like the second dream, which I hold as my that's the number one gameplay reveal that I've ever like. That's my favorite. That's the best
What's the second
because
dream? Remind me. I don't
so the
recall.
second dream was Warframe's first story quest. When it was
Oh
released,
yes.
a handful of years into the game's lifetime. And so by then, I was already playing for years, and what Warframes were was an open question. And there's this moment, spoilers Warframe, for a, I don't know, 12-year-old quest now, but this you came upon this pod that was like in a beautiful reservoir of water with these waterfalls that are coming down, and this big pod approaches you and it opens up, and this guy, this fully suited person, humanoid, just falls out of the pod, and 2 or 3 seconds later your screen glitches and your warframe collapses to the ground. And I remember jumping out of my seat and shouting, "It's me." Like, that's me.
I recall that
And
now. Yeah.
my brother burst into my room and he's like, "What are you yelling about?" And I'm like, "It's me in the pod. It's me. That's me. That's the real me. That's the real Shin Malphur." and so that reveal was so good. And what makes that reveal so good is it was so many years in the making. That one, it'll be really hard for another game to top that. But the witness reveal was another good one, because we had so many questions about who was the winnower, who is in control of the darkness, who commands the pyramid ships. Like, these were all disparate questions that we thought all led back to one answer. Now I will say the oh shit moments that we've gotten in Final Shape have been good. Those have been quite effective. My favorite of these being the confirmation that the winnower is a separate entity completely from the witness, and that the witness says he's the first knife, but he might not even be that. It's in the lore tab for a ship. I don't remember off the top of my head. Let me go to light.gg really quick.
Bungie casually dropping the biggest lore in the game in a ship lore tab.
Yeah, no, they did. And I think that this was the collector's edition ship, so it's like not even everybody got this. New collectible, probably, right? No. Yes. But I don't remember what it's called, so it's pointless. I remember what it looks like, though. Anyway, the point is that ship's lore tab is a conversation with the winnower, who we now know is separate and is still out there and still yapping.
Which is horrifying, by the way.
Which is horrifying. And also, if you compare the writing in this ship's lore tab to in Spiral, one of the entries in Spiral, I think it's number 9, and the writing of the Book of Sorrow, where Oryx communes with the darkness, and Unveiling, that is the same style.
Mm-hmm.
So we know the winnower wrote Unveiling. The winnower wrote entry 9, I think, of In Spiral, and the winnower talked to Oryx, not the witness. That is a big deal. That's a huge deal. Not only, I think that means, not only was Oryx, who was communing with the winnower directly, more of an equal to the witness, as in terms of things that the winnower was creating to go against the gardener. But also that means that you can no longer power scale the witness and Oryx next to each other, because the witness isn't his he's not actually above him in the hierarchy. I think that to the people who think that Forsaken was better, you don't remember Forsaken. That was 6 years ago. There was primary ammo on the ground. You don't remember Forsaken.
I feel that.
I'll say Forsaken was when Bungie looked at the camera, did the Kubrick stare, and said, "We're serious," which is great. That's awesome. I didn't get the intention that any of the story before Forsaken was anything more than schlock, which is fine. It's okay to be entertaining. It's okay to not really want to have that deep of a story. Again, I mean, I wasn't here for D1, so Red War, Curse of Osiris, Warmind, that was all the context I had at the time. But I could definitely tell Forsaken was building up to something, and I just don't think that the highs were as high as some of these have been, and the lows are certainly lower.
Totally agree.
When we were first planning this, I know that we've rescheduled this podcast like 3 times. And so when I had first planned for this, I watched a bunch of videos from like Datto and all them who were going into Forsaken and then coming out of Forsaken so that I could specifically know and have specific examples to cite, but I don't remember. The point is, go watch some of those videos if you're at all curious what Forsaken was really like, because there's big differences.
Oh yeah, and I mean, like,
Um,
to your point of the highs weren't as high. I mean, if you compare them, I mean, K dying is a big oh shit because it's like the first time if you don't read lore tabs that you know ghosts can be killed.
yeah,
Because usually, like, that you die and you always get rezzed, and no one ever thinks to
I
shoot the
think
ghost. And
I think
maybe
before
art,
then the only guy who did that was Dredgenuor,
yeah,
was
literally.
that guy that I killed.
And relatively speaking, that's relatively deep if you want to learn about it, unless you watch Bife, who made an amazing like animated type lore video on that.
It's amazing.
But the other like big oh shit is for that expansion is, oh my god, Wish Dragons actually rendered in the game instead of just being talked about forever. And the curse cycle. I'm probably missing some minor ones, but those are like really the last oh shits, or like the biggest ones for me in that expansion. And then you go to like Witch
I
Queen,
mean,
Final Shape.
didn't Aldrin get rezzed at the end?
Oh yeah, well, yeah, that was weird. It didn't happen directly at the time of
So
launch though. It was like a
if
season later.
you read the lore and you had kept up on the lore books, you would have been following the story of pulled pork.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what the Vanguard doesn't want you to know. Glint isn't his name.
It's pulled pork, yeah.
Pulled pork is his name.
Yeah.
That is his real name. That is the name that he was given. And I mean, somebody's going to get mad at me for dead naming pulled pork. I don't care. It's pulled pork.
I have a question for you.
What's that?
Do you think they changed it to Glint because they didn't realize they were going to
Bro.
make it a big deal? Because I don't think they would seriously say pulled pork in game.
I think they just didn't want to say pulled pork in game.
Yeah.
I think that when that was a lore tab, somebody was just having fun. And, I think the lore has always been better than the story. Like, I mean, year over year, I think that the lore has always slapped the hardest. But somebody was having fun. There was something. I think they're allowed to get away with more in the lore versus in the presentation of the game itself. That has to be a little bit more. You can't see the lock-in that I'm doing, but
do you think they offload that to contractors, and that's why they don't really
the lore?
Yeah, like writing lore books, or do you think that's
no? I don't think so. So there's one guy. I don't remember what his name is. Oh, somebody. There was a guy who was like the creative director of the game. Don't remember his name. If you find it in post, let me know. But whenever there was layoffs or restructuring in Destiny in that team, like people moving on to Marathon, people who were getting let go for whatever reason, he always was still there. I think the lore has always been directed by that guy. I don't think he wrote them all, but kind of like how Joseph Staten was the guiding force for Halo's story. I think that whoever that was, whether it was Luke Smith or Joe Blackburn, or if it was that other guy who I swear I can picture in my head on it from a Vidoc, but I can't think of his name. I'm pretty sure it was one of them, and it's always been one of them in charge of that project. But I think that's always been Bungie internal because the lore has been very consistent.
Gotcha. Yeah. The Final Shape narrative was just over. I like the oh shit moments you were talking about. I didn't mean to sidetrack us there, but you were continuing down that path.
I think that the worst thing about the story, at least in terms of its presentation, wasn't its fault. The server issues made the story very hard to understand, and related glitches actually prevented me from really fully getting the story. There was always a cutscene that I was missing in the middle that I only got on my third playthrough. So when I was going through on my Titan, I was like, I've never seen this before. So something was still going wrong in the actual cutscenes themselves that were kind of screwy, that made it difficult to piece everything together.
Yeah,
But
that's interesting.
beyond that, I think that a good way to summarize my feelings on Final Shape as a whole is that everything great casts a shadow.
Mhm.
Like the story felt personal for everybody but us. We are him. We have always been him. We will always be him. And yet we don't really have a dog in the fight. I mean, not yeah, like we're him, so it's our destiny, haha, to go deal with the witness. And the ending after excision, that feels personal. That is good. That sticks the landing. But the rest of the story just doesn't feel like it's about us. And I think that's fine. But in a game, like in a book, you understand that you are experiencing the story of someone else explicitly. It is up to you to be attached or not to those characters. Ask me my opinions about Fourth Wing, but not here on podcast. That's another one you won't be able to release. Whereas in a game, I think there's a little bit of an expectation that the player will be directly involved somehow. I mean, with the progression of the narrative, other than like shooting the guy, which is really what our participation in Final Shape's narrative boils down to. Go here, shoot a guy. I mean, that's all of Destiny. Crow was handled very well. I actually think that Crow is modern Bungie's biggest narrative achievement. My clan will burn me alive for saying this, but I think it's true because we, as a community, echoed his arc. And that was that when he was first brought back, we were on the whole, and I'm speaking generally because again, I mean, I know a lot of people who still don't like Crow. They're like, Crow sucks, get him out of here. But I think generally the community at large was really against Crow, Uldren coming back, and seeing that echoed in the lore where other Guardians would just slay out against him over and over for something that he didn't remember. And then as he slowly started to coalesce around this new identity and learn to forgive himself and kind of step into that role that Cade filled within the rest of the cast, I think that's amazing. I mean, I wasn't too hot on the Still Hunt mission as a gameplay piece. I don't think that was particularly fun. But the story was good. I think that Crow has been handled fantastically. Yeah, he's good stuff. Ikora, sort of meh. I mean, it seems strange to me that she was so at odds with Zavala, but that's got more to do with Zavala than it does with her. And I'll get to him in a second. But I suppose it stands to reason that her issues were the ones that we kind of just fixed by fixing everything else, because she didn't really seem like she had a particularly outstanding thing that needed to happen. She remained pretty static. Zavala, however, I thought was completely fumbled. I feel like I need to go back and rewatch everything that happened in Season of the Haunted, because I'm pretty sure that his internal conflict vis-a-vis Sophia and his son was already resolved. I thought that was dealt with. I thought he banished his nightmares, and that was like the indication that
He
he
healed.
has moved on. And
Yeah.
he healed. We had Season of the Therapy. And so I have a spin foil about this. My spin foil is Zavala's arc wasn't there until after the writing team got excised post Lightfall. And they went back and they were like, okay, we need to do something personal. We need to do something emotional. We need a through line. So they used details about Zavala that were probably in a character Bible that weren't updated for what happened in the expansion cycle before that. So I'm thinking that there might have been accidental retcon that happened with Zavala. Now, I could be totally wrong. Like I said, I mean, this is the downside with Destiny's seasonal model, is that once it's gone, it's gone. It's gone forever. All of that is poof, dust in the wind. Like, I cannot without finding an external resource, which I didn't take the time to go look for. I can't actually go back and verify that. So, I mean, if somebody comes back and posts on your video, Zavala actually didn't get over anything and you're totally wrong, maybe I'm wrong. Tell me if they do, because that would actually fix my biggest complaint about this story.
Right.
Is Zavala's just 2 steps back. Like,
yeah,
I don't understand.
I remember with a pretty clear picture Season of Haunted, because I enjoyed that season. And everything that happened with Zavala was exactly what you said. In literally the final cutscene of the season, he literally talked with the healed version of Sophia, with Keitel, with Crow. They were all there together, and they all had their peace with their nightmares before they vanished after Callus became a disciple. Literally, and Keitel hugged Zavala. Zavala was
she's built like a steakhouse guardian, but she handles like a bistro.
Exactly. That was the start of their relationship. But that season closed the narrative loop on his torment. I would say less his son. I feel like if anything, they should have pulled, if they wanted to do the story with him being tormented, they should have pulled on his son a little bit more, because Sophia was solved.
Yeah.
He put that to rest, but not his son. His son could have been a better through line.
And I will say that it is interesting to screw up the dynamic the way they did. Whenever you have characters that are fulfilling certain roles for extended periods of time, it can be refreshing to change it up and force characters to behave in different ways than they otherwise would, because it's fresh, and it causes them to have to act in ways that wouldn't normally be parcel to their nature. Like Cade, for example, having to be the Rock, which was what Zavala did in Forsaken. They had a total role reversal. And I mean, Ikora unfortunately just sits there and continues to be
Ikora never existed.
She is Ikora. That's what she is. In her character notes, there's 2 sentences: better at Crucible than Shax, and Ikora. That's just a one-word sentence.
Her best moments have always been in seasons, never in main narratives. She's just never there.
I disagree. Her best thing comes from a lore tab, where she beats Shax at Crucible.
Oh my god, that's fantastic. I think I remember.
I don't know what gun it is, but it's one of them. It's a shotgun, I think.
I hope we get more from Ikora, because she definitely needs something.
Ikora's always needed more, I think. And I mean, with Osiris being reduced to curmudgeon status, we definitely need some more Ikora going on, I think.
Yeah.
Otherwise, where's Erismorn? What's Erismorn do? Where is our resident god? What is she up to?
Literally the most powerful character in the entire universe not over, the primordial forces or the Witness, but literally the most powerful hive that ever existed. for 6 seconds. Yeah. Exactly.
And then there were no consequences to that at all.
And they started doing a relationship with the Drifter. They started building that up, and it was getting really cute. And then,
which is good. That's good. That's very well done. I love it when the 2 outcasts come together. That's always fun. It's not a lot of romance tropes that I like, but that's one of them.
Yeah. There's not that many romances in general in Destiny, other than Saint Osiris and
Keitel and Zavala isn't technically confirmed either.
They're skating the lines. They don't know if they want to give the Rule 34 artists the ammo for that one.
Well, it doesn't matter. They'll make their own. Otherwise, I mean, my only other complaint regarding character was, where did Micah 10 come from? What? Yeah. Last time we heard from Micah Abram, I'm pretty sure they were dead, which is of all of the things that you could say about Micah as a character, in which order did the guardianing and the exoing happen? Because I'm
Did
pretty
you?
sure they were dead on Europa.
Yeah, I finished up Vice. Well, not all of it. Most of Vice Video on Mega 10. I mean, I know we had the Cloak and Destiny one that talked about her a little bit, and we had the Six
Yeah, and we've
Coyotes
got the
chess
sixth
piece.
coyote.
But she kind of lived, or sorry, yeah, she lived in the back. I forgot she trans
Hmm.
character. She
Yeah.
lived in the background of the lore for a while, and
So
kind of
she's been
just
kicking around.
yeah, but not that much. Like maybe 5 tabs or something. And they
Yeah,
added some
we needed some
crazy.
foreshadowing.
Yeah, they at least vocally so the community knows because the people who aren't like us can be like, "Who the hell is this?" Because
Bro,
apparently,
I was like,
like,
who the hell is this? Like,
exactly, she's
I
so
was like,
vague.
wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. This is the person from the Europa lore books. And I didn't even think to look back earlier than that because I just didn't
Yeah,
remember.
thankfully,
Everything else related to that character is so old. Like
oh, it's
Shinobu. Like
it's
nobody
so
talks
old,
about
bro.
Shinobu or Shiro 4 or any of those guys anymore.
I have
Praedyth
opinions about
is
Shiro
getting some
4.
love. Praedyth is getting some love. I've heard. I haven't played the newest episode stuff, but I heard that there was confirmation that Ashimir and Praedyth are still alive, which is awesome because Praedyth is awesome.
Great. I have to see the Ashmere stuff because I haven't seen that yet. But like and with the Final Shape lore, just in general, when we're talking about characters, just draw. This is a bigger oh shit moment than I think people actually kind of realize because again, it's buried in the books. Is the fact that Cade, like his son that he's talked about for a long time, might actually be Micah 10 post transition because that's what everyone is theorizing that Micah 10 might be like Cade's son.
Wow, maybe. I mean, I can't speak to that, but I do ascribe to the theory that Ace doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
There is no Ace as a person. There is Ace that is a gestalt of something that Cade thinks is a person. Because I mean, I think that it was suggested that he's been rebooted more than 6 times. That's just the only 6 times he could remember.
I believe so, yeah.
So I don't remember 100% where that is either, but I wish I had more sources, but I don't.
But
But I
overall,
do think that was a thing.
if you had to give the Final Shapes narrative a rating, what would you give it?
I don't like ratings out of 10, but
Uh, do you consider it the best expansion? I would put it like this: do you consider it the best expansion they ever made, Game of the Year contender that it was, or do you think it's like there's something else still above it that they made?
I think it's a loaded question. Um,
It exists. It was good. They cooked.
I think I wouldn't call it game of the year. I mean,
It's also
that's
hard to
kind of
say an
it's kind of
expansion a Game of the
funny.
Year.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to call an expansion game of the year, but I mean, like
It was close. The ratings I got.
they the important stuff was there. Defeating the witness involved more than shooting him with a gun, but we still got to shoot him with a gun, which is nice. The raid went insane. Prismatic is good. The dread exists. The guns are fine. The exotics are good, with the exception of the hunter one. And my favorite part of the story is that it had consequences. Bungie is afraid of consequences. They're so afraid of consequences, except for key moments like Cade's death. Stuff like Hive God Eris and Nescafe, Nezarek speaking to us after his death. These are all dropped plot threads. They're just gone. Like Bungie just either wrote him off or never picked him up again. Aphelions, like I really want to know what that is. Like I'll get to that later. But there's stuff that's lurking around the edges of the lore that are open questions that Bungie has just never gone into that all stem from big major events. And this story had consequences. This story spurred the episodes, which I don't think are very good. We'll get to that. But the that is such a big thing is we did something that actually affected the state of the world. It didn't just go back to the status quo between seasons. Like
Yeah.
that's huge.
If we killed the witness and it was like, all right, go farm your weekly engrams, I think everyone would have quit.
I mean, I definitely still feel like the game wants
Oh
me to just
yeah.
go farm my weekly engrams, but
Yeah.
Ask me about how many GMs I haven't done.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I think overall the final shape is what we needed to like give the game the longevity that it needed to go into 2025. Because I think if this turned out to be another Lightfall, Sony would have decapitated Bungie and made them walk on Marathon.
I was always gonna stick for final shape. Like, I mean, I just sunk cost fallacy. I was already in so deep. Like,
Yeah, you have to see how it ends
it
at
doesn't
that
matter
point.
if it was bad. I may as well see the end, but I'm still not sold that Frontiers is going to be super good. I mean, the cool part, I was going to save this for later, uh, judging by the outline, but if you want me to get into it now, there is something cool that I think does give me hope. And maybe the community needs to hear it sooner. What do you think?
If you want to dive into it, you can. I'm definitely going to be
So,
mentioning Tor Bottle at the end.
the cool part, if you've never worked on a really big narrative project like this that's had a lot of hands on it, that kind of passes down from person to person and team to team, then you might not be aware that so much gets thought of and used and reworked and left behind, that if it had the original people in charge, might have gone totally differently. Every time you get a new set of hands on a large scale narrative project like this, it changes. And that change is immutable. It is inevitable. It will always happen. You can't hedge against it, no matter what, no matter how many notes you think you leave behind. If you put you could write a whole Destiny Silmarillion and it wouldn't matter, because someone will come in with new ideas and say, no, we're not doing that, we're doing this. And one of those things that I can point to as, I'm pretty sure that this is a newer idea, is the Witness himself. That is a new idea. I do not think that the Witness existed during early iteration on Destiny as a story. I think that they this is Raindrop Prelude. I love Chopin. I think that they were in need of a big bad guy, and they didn't have one. There was no clear contender, and then somebody with a cool idea came in and said, "Hey, what we're going to do this," and it ended up being what I thought was very cool. I like the Witness a lot as a character, but the point is, everything from here on is pure vision. This is Destiny unfettered by the trappings of what came before. Once we're done with the episodes, I have a feeling that they're going to tie up all of those loose ends with a neat little bow and say, okay, we're not touching these anymore, because, Bungie and consequences, right?
Mhm.
So they're going to take those and put them in a box, and they're going to slide it over there, and they're not going to think about it anymore. And then everything from here on is, sky's the limit. So that'll be interesting to see, at the very least. Even if it falls flat, I'm really curious about what they're going to give us unbound. Destiny is unshackled at
Oh
this
yeah.
point. It no longer has to be what it thought it was. So,
And I, for the first time since we knew that we were in this saga called the Light and Dark Saga, if we go rewind time and think about Destiny 1, and arguably until Forsaken, unless they said it specifically before, I don't think we ever really knew we were in a saga. It just felt like things were happening in a universe. Maybe you could argue in Taken King, because then you got this weird thing talking from the darkness, but I personally never really felt like we were in a saga until they said Light and Dark Saga. You know what I mean?
well, I mean, what defines a saga? Like, I mean,
It didn't feel like it was defined until we had the villain of it fully clarified in our vision. So like, we're going into this era where everything's going to be new, and they said they wanted to start a new saga, but like, what is it going to be? For a little bit, we're going to kind of be testing the boundaries and finding out what it is, because like, are they going to name it right away when Project Frontiers gets a name? Also, everyone's saying it's Destiny 3, and it pisses me off.
No, Destiny 3 will be Destiny 3.
Yeah, like,
I'm sure that's going to happen
eventually. Yeah,
but
totally.
games take years to develop,
Yeah.
years and years. And I know for sure Bungie's not throwing their all behind this, because they're still working on Marathon. So
And they
You
said they
know,
want to keep
it's
supporting this game for a while.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. So I mean, Destiny 2 is going to kick around for I'd say 3 to 5 more years at least before Destiny 3 even gets teased. But I do think it's coming.
yeah, eventually it has to because people are going to want it. But I'm excited to see what Frontiers is. Did
Like
you
Final
have?
Fantasy. I mean, Final Fantasy. I've been playing a lot of that recently, and I mean, I'm over 100 hours in, and I'm not even out of the first expansion yet.
Nice. I've been meaning to play it. I just can't handle a
It's good.
subscription right now. I we will definitely be coming back to Project Frontiers because that's the last bullet point. Because I really want to talk about like Turbo Battle and the Vex homeworld, so on and so forth. But I'm right there with you. I feel the same way about the narrative. I think it's what we needed to conclude. But this is another big question. Do you think the light, talking about sagas, do you think the light and dark saga concluded in a satisfying way? Do you think it ended well?
That's hard to say. For one, satisfying endings are complex things. I'm going to turn my Chopin down really quick here because this is important. Writing a satisfying ending is really hard. There are famous writers, very famous writers you've heard of, who are not good at writing satisfying endings. And the one that pops into my head is Stephen King. Stephen King is really good at the beginning. He's really good at the middle. He's really good at keeping you engaged. But I just don't think his endings are particularly strong. And I think that that's a function of a lot of things. But really, when it comes to what makes an ending satisfying, wow, somebody just got lit up on the next. Oh, wow, that's 5, 6, 7, 8 shots.
I hear
Wow,
that.
something is going on the next street over. Ooh, 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 ooh. Anyway, I don't feel wholly dissatisfied with this ending, but I don't feel a sense of truly genuine closure. And part of this is that it's a live service game. If we get closure, the game ends.
Yeah.
And part of this is that there are still some open questions,
Mhm.
but nothing surrounding those questions feels tangibly different. It's, you know, we are more aware, but that doesn't manifest in any meaningful way. And as I said, what makes an ending satisfying is different for everyone, and there are a lot of ways to achieve it. I've listed out a couple of these versions, but I mean, this is like literally paragraphs, and I don't know if you want to hear it, but
You can go into it if you
like,
want. I'm into this conversation. It's okay.
so let me spoil a bunch of stuff for you. So Halo Reach, story spoilers for Halo Reach. Halo Reach, I think, has the best ending in video games. Um, the whole story is about sacrifice. It is about bravery. It is about the human cost of valor. You get to watch your entire team be hunted and killed one by one as you operate on Reach, with the exception of Carter, who crashes his Pelican, and so that you can get past a scarab in one of the best scenes in the entire game. But the point is that every inch, every victory that you get in that game requires sacrifice. And there is a growing sense of certainty that as you keep losing party members, that you're going to be required to make that sacrifice as well. And you die on Reach, and there's no other way the game could have ended. I don't think. It is the most satisfying ending in gaming, I think. And the whole work builds to this moment. It is thematically and tonally consistent. Like, Halo Reach is haunting if you think about it. Like, have you played it?
No, but I've watched clips
What?
and
Oh man.
yeah, I've watched
It
clips
is one of
and
the few games that it's the only Halo game I beat Lazo, so
Mhm.
Legendary All Skulls On. The only one that I beat Lazo. And it's one of the few games that I got 100% achievement completion on Xbox. So I played a little bit of Reach, just a little bit,
Just a little, just a few hours.
just a little.
I only ever
So
played
that's
OST, so I'm a little
ODST is good too.
ODST. Yeah.
ODST, I don't have this podcast thoughts about ODST, but ODST is also a very good story. Other than that, I mean, the number one ending, I think, is, I call it, it couldn't have ended any other way. And that's because the way it ended is the ending. When you play D&D and you're acting as the dungeon master, you need to make decisions that feel like they make sense for those characters, because otherwise your hand is revealed in contriving a situation or the behavior of NPCs. The conclusion to everything that happens in a D&D game is only satisfying because it is the thing that happened. It is the only thing that could have happened. Like, it is a culmination of everything that came before. Now, there are other ways that you can make an ending satisfying. You can have a major revelation or a big subversion. One of my favorite books, Joe Abercrombie's Last Argument of Kings, spoilers, Last Argument of Kings. We get to see that the Gandalf figure, Lord Baez, is actually the villain. He uses a magical artifact that they go questing for throughout the whole second book to turn himself into a magic nuke that levels the whole district. It levels the entire palace district of the capital city, killing hundreds to stop an army of sorcerers. He kills literally hundreds of civilians. And then the king that he elevates into the position, because they are a like representative monarchy, so they elect their kings. He puppeted his choice into being kingly, and when that king turned and spoke out to him, he beat the living crap out of him with his magic. And that type of revelation only works if you have a big question that you're hinting towards throughout the entire work. Now, there's two other ways that I think you can really reach for a satisfying ending, where you have a character-focused story where that character is struggling and trying and failing to achieve something. A bonus points if it's a really sentimental something that's really like emotionally important. But they never quite get it, and then they finally do something to earn it. That can be very satisfying as well. Destiny doesn't really have that. And then, of course, bottom of the list, I would say, is pure spectacle. Where you just have cool stuff happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like that can work, and that can be awesome in and of itself. But that's one of those where you're getting something out of the fridge later, and you kind of realize there wasn't a lot of substance to it. I don't think that the final shape really hits any of those, other than it's kind of the only way that it could have ended, ripping the witness out of the darkness. We were never going to kill the witness any other way, and I'm really glad that they followed through on that promise of making it not just another shoot him with a gun fight. And I'm probably a little bit jaded, so I'm a little probably unfair to Bungie in my analysis.
Bungie Garden.
Although, so did you see the reveal trailer for Final Shape, where he finalizes those guys and the apple falls?
Mm-hmm.
So the finalization of Earth apparently really happened. That was a canon event. That really happened.
That's wild.
For 10 seconds, the witness won. And I think that would have been really, really powerful if we would have seen it in game. But the fact that was just in the trailer, I think that's a big disservice to the story as a whole, because the witness did win for about 10 seconds until the Traveler reversed it.
That's wild. Some things come to mind, like, again, the consequences thing. Like, are we ever going to hear, like, sure, it got fixed, but the entire world being finalized for even 10 seconds would have consequences somewheres. And also imagine if instead of loading into the Pale Heart, like you're walking through the purple tunnel, you instead, like, I don't know, spawn in the tower and you're going to your ship. Because I like to imagine Guardians walk to their ships instead of constantly transmatting. But like you're just going something to launch. Maybe you're in the helm, and then you as the player in the moment are actually finalized in game, kind of like in the
Like when you're
raid.
in Verity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that would have been so impactful because
Yeah,
then
that would have been cool.
it would have made the first like going through the portal a lot more impactful because you're listening to Mara Sov like basically when does she break character ever? Like she
Yeah.
was choking and borderline crying. That would have made all of that feel like better.
So
It
let me tell you about the ending to a game that I didn't like. Um the base campaign for Final Fantasy 14 A Realm Reborn. This is the 1 or the 2.0 expansion for the game. It's the first thing that you play through. The ending to that, spoilers Final Fantasy 14. You fight this mech suit that eats gods, and at least 3 times it casts a spell that's so powerful you yourself cannot do anything to prevent yourself from dying. It is a guaranteed death. But luckily, God shows up to save you. Literally, God shows up to save you. And that makes me angry. The ending of Final Shape did not make me angry. Actually, it makes me a little bit angry because for some reason the orbit music will not go back to normal. It's always that
oh the
song
triumphant
now.
yeah.
It's always that song. I liked it when it was other songs. I liked the shuffle. Like bring the shuffle back. Does nobody else care about this? I've not seen this be brought
I
up by anyone else
honestly
in the community.
completely
Like,
like I've gotten so used to it I don't even hear it.
yeah,
Like I have
I don't think
music
anybody
loud but I
notices.
don't even notice it anymore. But now that you mention it too, I'm also angry about that because the shuffle was nice. Sometimes you get really good
Yeah.
orbit music.
Yeah, you get deep stone lullabies in there. Like so another thing, speaking of endings that make us mad, have you seen the Staten cut?
Of Destiny, the other ending they wanted to use for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's where you basically do the animation from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know what's really funny about that?
What?
So, let me get this straight really quick before I talk a bunch of stuff about Joseph Staten on the internet. He still works at Bungie, right? Or does he not? Does he work at 343 now? Yeah. Okay. So it's not actually Staten's cut then. It's somebody else's. Well, that kind of makes this moot, I guess. But something else that's kind of silly is the ending for this game and the ending for Halo were also changed at the last second. Like both of these were shifted at the last moment. The original ending for Halo 2 would have set the entire franchise on a different trajectory. If you're not familiar, the original ending for Halo 2 was going to feature 343 Guilty Spark and the Arbiter finding a Forerunner ruin on Earth. And Guilty Spark opens a like stasis coffin thing, and he's like, hey, you really need to see this. And Arbiter comes over and a human skeleton is in there, and then it would have cut to credits. So we would have gotten the explicit confirmation that in the original canon for Halo, humans always were forerunners. There was no separation. Everything that came after, with the forerunners and the humans both being client species of the precursors, the stuff that came up in the Greg Bear novels, which are all fantastic, by the way. That all was a creation of 343 that essentially retcons what amounted to only being one line, because Microsoft wanted the cliffhanger. They wanted that, really powerful hook that I'm finishing this fight. That was explicitly like Microsoft was like, no, you need to end it this way.
Classic
So
Microsoft. Do you think, not to cut you off, I didn't know if you have any more thoughts on that.
no,
But
that's perfect.
I seen that and it makes me think originally that this kind of leads into another question. So I think we'll do a little bit of hopscotch. We'll probably go to the Cade question and then the witness
Meow,
question.
meow.
I The fact that the original ending wasn't Cade giving us his light to save the ghost and it was us doing the transcendent thing makes me feel like
Mhm.
they wanted Cade to stay, because even the seasonal artifact, it's a hunter's notebook with like
Yeah.
Cade memorabilia on it. So there's a part
Yeah.
of me that hopes and wishes that originally they wanted Cade to stay. I think that would have made the ending a lot worse, to be honest, because let me tell you, every time I play Excision, and I just helped my friend through it, and he experienced the ending cutscene for the first time, I cry like a wimp. I don't just
Ah,
cry, I sob, and I'm completely fine until the music plays when you're holding your ghost. When it's like that, I don't original Destiny music. It's definitely an old track. That's when I lose it.
mhm.
But I feel like if they went with that other ending, it would have hurt how it felt, and that Cade might be alive. I think so. Do you think Cade was originally planned to be alive and they scrapped that? Or do you think he was always going to die again, but we just didn't see it in that
It's
cut?
hard to say. I mean, I'm not gonna speculate too much on the revisive iterations that they went through when they were bringing this to production. I mean, given that we can see that rendered cutscene and Cade doesn't die, I have to imagine, yeah, but that actually was what I was afraid of. And
I think everybody was,
is that
yeah.
we would get Cade back and then he would be great in the campaign and then he'd just become a vendor and just stand there for years not doing anything. So should Cade have stayed? Not at all. I don't think so. When Cade died, Bungie threw a gauntlet down. They said, we can make better characters than this. We can do better than this. And I think that that was really where Destiny as a franchise had a tonal shift, going from this is a space opera to this is a personal story. And I think that bringing Cade back would cheapen that a little bit.
Hmm.
What's the point of permanently killing a character if it is so easily reversed, especially in a property where resurrection from death is not only possible, but commonplace? I think final deaths should always be impactful. We should never, ever get a guardian back from a final death.
Yeah.
I think that Cade, in terms of Bungie's writing, was a bit of a crutch character. Like,
Hmm.
he's the one that everybody liked. I mean, you could have Cade there doing anything and people would automatically probably like it.
Yeah.
And bringing Cade back was impactful for the resolution of Crow's arc. I think he could have actualized in a version of the story that didn't have Cade in it, where he is not explicitly forgiven by his for his actions as Aldrin, and it would have been fine. But this way, we have full closure on the Crow Aldrin dichotomy. He is completely absolved now, and he can move forward into his position as the Hunter Vanguard with no baggage. He is unfettered, and that is important because if they wouldn't have done that, then Crow would have been stuck in the past still, and that wouldn't nearly be as compelling as a Crow that has fully come through an arc and now completed it. Because finishing an arc is still part of an arc. You still have to, you know, actually do something and show that you have progressed. Because otherwise, if you're on an arc that never ends, is it really an arc or have you just plateaued? Or are
Yeah.
you just freaking out and doing random things that seem like they have a through line but don't really because it never ends? Endings give things meaning in our context. Although I do have an interesting thought, and I think that it's implied. And again, my experience with the cutscenes was kind of funky, but I think it's implied that the only reason Cade is back is because Crow wished for it. Is that
Yeah.
true?
That's correct. He
That's
came
true.
back, yeah.
Because I was wondering, like, if he's like a reflection of a dead guardian, where's the rest of them? Where's Reed? Where's Joxer? Where's Andal Brask? Where's the Iron Lords? Where's Ariana 3? Like, there are so many really interesting characters that could have been here that are these big, tall names that we've never seen. And that could have been really cool to explore who some of these characters were. And I don't know, that could have been very interesting. But if it's the case where it's just the wish that brought him back, I guess that makes sense.
And it's also pretty that's pivotal for Crow's character because him wishing for Cade back. And I like what you said before, where Crow is like a representation of us as a community, kind of, or however you phrase that, because everybody hated him forever, and I know a lot of people still do, but Now he's a pretty strong character. But yeah, I once again, millionth time, I agree. There's a part of me that wishes Cade stayed because, to your point, everybody loves Cade. He's basically Destiny Dad, other than
Mm-hmm.
Shaxx. So it'd been nice to have him around because his dialogue and hearing him talk again is so refreshing. And while I didn't necessarily like the gameplay elements like you did of the Still Hunt Exotic Quest, just the narrative and the dialogue and the banter is it's and the
Yeah, that was all
cutscene.
really good.
Yeah, like that was peak Cade moments. It was really refreshing.
There is something that I didn't like about that. Now that I think about it, there is something about that that offended me a little bit.
Scree
Um,
pulls? No, I'm just kidding.
no, the fact that it had X hours later breaks, that was so dumb.
Oh yeah, that
Where
was
it just
yeah.
like cut your screen to black and it was like 8 hours later. And I'm like, bro, just make it another quest or just why does it have to happen later? What is it adding by happening later? Just make it happen now. Like
I
what's the point?
think they were trying to key into like this campfire type feeling that didn't really
I
work.
don't know. I
It was
didn't feel
weird.
it.
Like, why am I resting in this tent? Why am I reflecting on
Yeah.
my actions? I did that enough with Ikora years ago.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, no, I agree. Cade definitely Uh, definitely good that he's not back. It would have took away his painful death and its meaning. So, all right, let's go
Mhm.
back to the other question that I skipped over. I know you briefly mentioned you like the Witness as a character. Do you have anything more to say on that? Because he
Oh, I have lots to
really,
say on this.
realistically had what 2.5 years to grow.
Conceptually, I've never seen anything like The Witness outside of my own fiction. At risk of violating some NDA stuff, I did create a character that is fundamentally similar to The Witness. It's different in key ways that make things artistically inspired and not stolen. This character is a gestalt of selves. They are all himself. It is not distinct individuals in the way that the witness is. But that's really cool. Aggregate beings is not something that I've seen very commonly executed before. And, as an idea, he is very distinct against the other villains that we have in Destiny. His design is instantly recognizable. You see that big Mr. Hourglass and the smoke column head. Like, that's the witness. That is, you'd know him in silhouette. Like, you know him right away. And from my work on a webcomic that I can't talk about, um, I know from what I've worked with the artist that distinct character designs really matter. Recognizability is huge. Like, you don't want to ever get confused with another character, because if that character is more well known than yours, then people are just going to think that you're ripping off. Whereas this way, there is only one thing that can be. I think the biggest flaw with the witness as a character is just that they didn't think of him earlier, or at least I can't see any evidence that they did. I mean, I talked about this a little bit earlier when you have these vestiges of past ideas and things that earlier uh, people who were in charge of the narrative had laid down, and you're kind of building on that as the plane is flying, so to speak. You're cooking as you're cooking as you're cooking as you're cooking, and they did great, I think. But if he was a force that we knew about earlier, I think that that would have made everything that happened in Final Shape, and maybe even Lightfall, land us so much more squarely. Getting a villain to work right is really, really hard, and a lot goes into building and presenting the perfect villain for your work. um I think that part of showing off a good villain and getting your reader, because I mean, books is what I know best. So, I mean, getting your reader to really key on the villain and how important they are and really sell them as a character is to show the villain early. And if you can't show the villain early, at least show signs of them.
Mhm.
Show what they do to people. Show how things look when they leave. Think about how crazy it would have been. Actually, we do kind of have an example of this. Do you remember what happened to Mars in Witch Queen? Do you
Oh
remember?
yeah, when it was taken, yeah.
Imagine if that mattered. Imagine if we had to walk through a golden age city stuck in flux and think about what the witness did to everyone who lived there. Imagine if we had to live through the stuff from the missing Black Armory papers, which if you haven't read is nuts.
It's
I don't
still
remember it
horrifying.
specifically, but Bife has a video all about I think it's called like The Witness Hates Us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if we actually got to see that. Like, that would have been nuts.
Like, it's horrifying.
And that would have sold me so much earlier.
Yeah.
But The Witness does hit 3 things that are really important when you're talking about strong villains. So I brought this question up to my clan leader. I said, Mr. Clan Leader, sir, do you think the witness is a good villain? He said emphatically no. He says to him that a villain is only good, or well, what makes a good villain? I won't say only because that wasn't the word he used. What makes a good villain to him is a motive that you yourself can get behind. And he thinks that the witness's motive is what killed the witness as a villain for him. But I think that there's more to that. I think that there are kind of 3 things that I'm really looking for. And that is that, you know, they need to be a complex character, which the witness is. The fact that there are dissenters within the witness at all, even though in Entelechy, which is the collector's edition lore book, we're told that other factions in Precursor Society were dealt with. Air quotes, air quotes, air quotes. We don't know what that means. We are led to think that they were exterminated, but we don't really know. And so that means that the consciousnesses within the witness, either there were dissenters that didn't speak up within the I forget what they called themselves, within the faction that became the witness, and
the pessimist or whatever, something like that.
It was something like that. And
the nihilists, I think.
I don't remember. I'm not going to use a title that I don't know, but either there were dissenters within them that didn't speak up, or the consciousnesses within the witness are still individual enough that they were able to change their mind, which is a big deal. Yeah. When you have that rounds out that character a little bit. And the other thing is that he is a necessary opponent. I've talked to you about this before when we were talking about writing, and that was that the best villains are the ones that belong to your heroes, the ones that are the only one that they can defeat, like One for All, or All for One, and All Might, and Shigaraki, and Deku in My Hero Academia. I actually think that that Shigaraki and Deku are the best example that I can think of right now of the necessary opponent, because they literally have parallel arcs. Like, it's beautiful. If you zoom out at My Hero Academia, it's a beautiful story. But so he's, you know, everything that we are not. He is a personified opposition to our ideals. And the third thing is that he is a champion to an alternate way of thinking. He is the edge of the first knife. He is the tip of the sword logic. He is a singular entity. That is one thing. He is a monofilament edge. Whereas we in Excision, if you noticed, beat him as 12. We beat him as many. We came together and defeated him using the opposite concept, which is huge. Like,
I never thought about it like
consistency that. That's super tasty.
That's a good point. I never thought about it like that.
So I mean, that is a lot of really good ingredients that I think go towards making the witness interesting, versus, you know, I can sort of see when you have a character that's not sure of its own motivations, it kind of takes the teeth out of its actions a little bit, because it's like, well, maybe it could just stop at any time, which I think might be the impetus behind my clan leader's argument is it's like that kind of takes some of the threat away as well. I mean, he could wake up tomorrow and change his mind, but I don't think he will. There's a certain tyranny of majority in the witness's actions that I think is kind of interesting. It's like he's a society in miniature. And the most important thing about him, of course, is the fact that we couldn't defeat him the way that we normally defeat things. Weren't gonna bullets weren't gonna do anything to him. Although that being said, I do wish that there was more mechanically to the excision process than just shooting him with a laser like that. I mean, all of that, and it comes down to shooting him with a laser that you can't miss. Like that's kind of But I mean, this is where the elitist versus casual mentality comes out, where it's like, well, if you wanted a fail condition, you got that in the raid. You had that. You had your opportunity to have it your way, and really dividing the witness's downfall into the raid and excision to satisfy both camps, I think, was a smart move.
This makes it
so that
agree.
everybody kind of gets what they want, but nobody really gets their way.
And they both felt like when they talked about it, like originally, where they said we can't kill the witness in the story, we have to kill him. Like you have to deal with him in the raid. I was really afraid that excision essentially would be the raid. So the fact
as Mr. Raids, I would have been fine with that.
Yeah, I know you would have. Trust me, I totally get it. I mean, I cleared it once, so I would be fine with it too, because at least I got to see it, even though it took me 3 weeks to get to it.
Yeah. What was that statistic? 82% of people in the player base might not get to experience it. Like,
yeah, that would have been a riot. But like the fact that both endings like felt impactful, because in order to have excision, you needed the raid. So the people who did the raid basically allowed excision to happen. You cut the witness off from the light, and then everyone can experience his actual downfall, because technically he loses twice. So you know, it was good. I was afraid that it was going to be like you kill him in the raid and then everyone just gets a cutscene. So it was definitely the best way they could have ended that or handled that.
Yeah,
because right now there is such a pull. There is such. I'm a lot more. I used to argue about this, especially heavily during Ron. I'm a lot more chill about it now, because I can see the issues that casual players kind of admit around them. Like you seen how mad I was about the cooperative focus stuff. Like I get the aggravation now, and I'm a lot more chill about the hardcore casual audience. So my train of thought kind of fell apart there. I'm really tired.
I see that.
But definitely the best way they could have ended the witness in that. So we got the episodes conversation, my man.
For me to get mad.
Yeah, so like I'll just quickly sum my side up, because I know you're gonna have more coherent thoughts on this. You've already read it in my outline, but I'll just regurgitate it here. I feel like the episode model has allowed for bigger narrative ideas, because I feel like we never got in something as impactful as like the conductor and the Vex basically changing and these bigger story moments, other than Eris becoming a god for a few seconds. That was pretty insane, but it just feels bigger, and it's giving it more time to brew. But the delivery method of that narrative is kind of shitty. Nobody likes it. And it, like you said originally at the start, it feels like we were gaslit because they said they would change it. Thankfully, they will be going forward, and we'll see if they do it. But
we'll see. I'm not optimistic.
Yeah. But how do you feel about the episodes and the lens of narrative?
So this is the part where we get into a fight, because bigger, no. Flat, no. Better, maybe. I'm behind. So, I mean, I haven't done the...
Bless you.
I haven't done the Act 2 stuff yet. I just haven't, like I said, not super interested in the game right now. I do this. I did this when Helldivers came out. It's just because I'm playing something new. By the time that I get tired with Final Fantasy, I'll go back. I always go back.
You can't escape.
But why isn't it bigger? Because Bungie needs to reset the tension. If they don't, nobody will believe them. Nothing will ever be bigger than the threat the witness posed. Mm-hmm. He was going to end the multiverse. He was going to end possibility. Like, literally everything that could ever be calcified into a single moment forever. Nothing Literally nothing tops that.
Yeah.
Not Frieza, like nothing. Panoptes, who could have Control A deleted the entire universe if he got out of the Infinite Forest. No, not even Panoptes was bigger than this. Not even Riven, who could have literally cast Wish and destroyed us the moment that we set foot in the Dreaming City. Like, nothing, 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 nothing. So there's nowhere to go. They hit the ceiling. You can't break through it. Otherwise, you get the Dragon Ball Z effect, where, oh, well, this guy's 15 times stronger than the last guy, and it's like, oh, well, my infinity plus 1, oh, my infinity plus 2, well, this guy over here's got infinity plus 5. Oh, we're gonna need to go train. Like, that's no, I don't believe you. And bigger than any other season, I don't think so either. Arrivals, Seraph, Witch, and Wish. All of them had higher stakes and a wider scope. Even Worthy had us building up for the Pyramid's arrival. They gave us a countdown. You could go watch it if
That's
you
true,
wanted
yeah.
to. There was literally
yeah.
a countdown in the Seraph bunkers. That was terrifying.
That was
And then in
pretty awesome.
Arrivals, when the Pyramid ships actually showed up, like, crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Which, where Eris became a capital G god. Wish, bringing Riven back, bringing back the Ahamkara. That's massive. That's one of those things that if Bungie throws in a box and forgets about, I'm going to be mad. Like, I'm going to be really mad about that if they forget
Yeah,
about all
we
that.
saved her eggs. We better be getting more dragons.
Yeah, oh yeah, God, yeah. And
like, that's
so,
not a consequence
I mean,
you can forget.
Like Seraph, I think it was a little bit tighter of a scope, but the stakes were still there. I mean, Xivu Arath was on her way. And if we didn't get Rasputin ready to counter her, well, I cast Black Terrace. Your planet no longer exists. Like, that was a big deal. So I don't really think that Echoes is bigger, and I don't think it needs to be. As for this story, it really kind of strikes me as one that we don't even really need to get involved with if we don't want to. Like, the Vex are weird. Okay, great. The Vex are always weird. Nothing the Vex do is normal. Point to the Vex and tell me that thing is normal, because it's not. It's a time bot made of milk that is a society in miniature. Like, that, nothing about that is okay. But, like, this is a Vex civil war that doesn't actually threaten us, which is a really fascinating concept, but without a strong hook. There's no impetus. If it wasn't for Failsafe saying, hey, Captain, you haven't come to Nessus in like 4 years, and I really miss you, we probably wouldn't have ever gotten involved. We just would have been like, yep, those are Vex.
Do you think a
The Vex are
unified
weird.
Vex, do you think a unified Vex out of the submines and completely collected into one cohesive unit would be a problem? Do you think that would...
That's the thing. The Vex, from what I can tell, only actually have 3 subtypes. There's the forgot already. There's the soul divisive, the ones in the garden, the soul inherent, the ones that are the ones in the raid in Garden of Salvation. But there's a third one, the one that's just regular Vex. They have a name. They have a special name.
Oh gosh, I know there's precursors or something.
Well, those are the Soul Collective.
Oh yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
the Soul Collective. I guess, okay, there's a couple more, like the Soul Progeny, who are the ones in the Black Garden. Those 3 Minotaurs, the Soul Primeval, that are the old ones, the Soul Imminent or the Descendant, Virgo Prohibition. Okay, so yeah, I guess there's more Vex than I thought. But really, I mean, when we're talking about the Vex, all these other ones are special, like the Heathen Protective and Corrective only exist on Venus. They're only in the Vault of Glass. The Soul Divisive are only in the Black Garden. The Soul Inherent are only in the Raid. And the Soul Collective are everybody else. So there was a unified Vex. It's just we didn't think about it that way because of how the Vex are organized. And that's kind of the interesting thing. I won't parrot a lot of what Bife said, but really the thing that the Vex do is that they've only ever done one thing. They've only ever gone back in time now to ensure some nebulous victory in the future. They are Roko's basilisk given form. If there is ever a Vex, there will always be Vex. The Vex are basically perfect. They have automated victory. And that doesn't really give a lot of room for variation or nuance or strong characters, which I think is one of the biggest problems with the Vex as a faction. They're so alien to us. Like I said, there is nothing normal about the Vex. They literally enslaved a star. They have enslaved a star and they tortured an entire civilization in nested simulations just because. Like, I mean, I don't think they gained anything out of that. They just wanted to because they're Vex. So, like, I mean, that's that's crazy.
Yeah, the Vex they are the most interesting faction because we just don't really know that much about them.
I mean, other than Queria Blade Transform, who kind of gets a little bit of a pass because they were taken, or it was taken. And so it could kind of act outside of the programming of the collective. We didn't really have any Vex characters. The conductor is the only one. And so that's fresh. I mean, automatically that's fresh. It remains to be seen who that's going to be, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be Maya Sundaresh.
Oh, yeah.
And if they die at the end of the episode, I'm going to be really disappointed because, I mean, if the Vex just go back to being the Vex, then I'm really going to question what the whole point of the episode was.
Yeah.
As far as, do I like what I'm seeing? Do I like what I'm playing? Is it better than the seasons that have come before? It's just too early to call it. I don't really like to pass judgment on works that I know are incomplete. The fact that the episodic model is literally the exact same thing as the seasonal model, where it's get on, do a mission, do a seasonal activity, come back, watch some characters talk, then listen to a radio transmission, and then wait for a week. The fact that it's literally that same thing again, but with extra time gates, is crazy. That is actually bonkers. You can't point at that idea and say that it's any good at all. But I do think that there's a definite regression on the gameplay front. Every seasonal activity run that I've done anyway is the same week over week. Deep Dive, if you remember Deep Dive, there was those, like, there's a couple of different things that you could get, like different encounters between different tiers, and you could get those like boons. Even Riven's Lair and the Coil felt better than this activity does. This activity is always the same. It is not different week over week, which is very strange.
It is quite boring, I agree. Yeah.
I don't really know what's up with that. And the secret mission is cool, but it doesn't feel rewarding for how long it takes. And also, if you run Icarus Dash or Heat Rises and you go into the man cannon, you die instantly. And I don't know why that happens. I have no idea what's up with that. So don't run Icarus Dash or Heat Rises if you don't want to die instantly. Otherwise, I mean, I've kind of noticed a funny trend among the members of my clan where when a new season comes out, everybody's hyped. You know, we all love it. But by the time that week 3 rolls around, we're all tired of it. Like, that's how quickly we burn out on this, even when it's new. And I think that there is nothing more important than fixing up, nothing more important to the future of episodes as a concept than fixing up this content delivery method, because it's like Saint's internal conflict is interesting. The role reversal of Saint and Osiris in terms of who is vulnerable and who is not is also very interesting, and we don't really know where that's going to go yet. But like, you need a lot of things to happen by 30% of the way through a book. You know, you need to initiate the reader into the world. They need to be literate in the conflict. They need to be aware of the stakes and the villain, and they need to get the emotional hook. And if you're writing a hero's journey, they're over the threshold. If you're writing with the Save the Cat structure, they need to have been given their catalyst. or if it's a rising action structure, there needs to be some intensifying conflict. And I wrote these talking points kind of at the end of episode 1. Like I said, I haven't done, or at the end of Act 1, and I haven't done the Act 2 stuff yet. But I mean, that just goes to show that it took more than a third of the way through the episode to get all of these things. So, I mean, they're behind as far as the 3-act structure is concerned.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, the now that you phrased it like that, I think I might have been going under I don't know.
Drank the Kool-Aid, bro.
Yeah, I drank a little bit of the Kool-Aid because like
Kool-Aid.
it felt, because like for maybe I'm a little bit weird, but the way it felt playing through, it just felt like different. Maybe it's because Ness is quote unquote in giant or in giant quotation marks, because it doesn't actually change in the patrol space. Like there's change to the landscape. And for some reason I just thought the story felt bigger, but the way that you phrased it there makes a lot of sense. Yeah. No, I agree.
And I don't mean to like,
oh no, you're good,
bleed your enthusiasm dry here, but I'll also say it's okay to like something that other people don't like.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in my circles, at least, liking Destiny is
bad,
kind of cringe.
Yeah,
which is funny considering how much Destiny we play. But like, it's okay to like the game, and it's okay to like the content even though it's flawed, and it's okay to enjoy yourself playing it. And all of those things are fine.
I like how mad people get when I say that I genuinely enjoy Ron. It's the one raid that I enjoyed because I can play it.
Bro, do you have any idea how hyped I was when Nezarek showed up? I was like, this guy's from the deepest lore. Like, this is the guy.
It's him. It's like, the guy.
I'll admit, he went down easy. Even on contest mode, he went down easy. But, like, I mean, that's him. There he is. He's right there.
Yeah, it's cool to see those deep lore characters get brought forth into the actual limelight. Especially, even though we don't really know that much about Micah 10, it was unless you read or go back in time, it was nice to see them, even though they weren't rendered in game like you would think. They were just a hologram.
Which was also kind of silly. Yeah. Where are they? Like, what are they doing? Why do they need to show up as hologram? Why can't they just be in there?
Yeah, like she's doing patrols.
Maybe they only rendered the top half of Micah 10. That's my spin foil.
I love that. That's great. They only have the resources for the top half. No, yeah, we'll see. I'm curious. Like, to your point, we can't really say how episodes are going to feel until we have one under the belt. But currently, right now, the sentiment is that it's very meh. It's not really. People still say seasons instead of episodes. I think next season, once we have.
See, you just did it right there.
Oh yeah, exactly. Damn it. Next episode, when we have the time gates lifted and they release the acts fully when they come out. I mean, we're going to have the people. I'm going to be one of them because I know how I play Destiny. I'll probably end up doing the entire act in like a day and then have nothing.
Complain about not having.
Oh, I don't. Trust me, I don't complain. Like when I do the campaigns in a day or 2 days, I know I'm doing a bulk of the content quickly. I know that going into. I've seen people complaining on Twitter that they maxed out the battle pass in like an hour, but they also were like speed rushing it and they were adding Bungie.
I literally maxed out my level the moment I logged in.
Yeah,
I just had banked bounties,
and then they
I just turned in all my bounties, and I was like, oh, there it is. That
I will parrot a little bit. I'll quote Bife on this, the and Datto too, to a certain extent. The argument between not having anything to do because you do it in 10 seconds, or what was the other half of that? I don't remember either, but it's a debate that's never really going to end, and there's no good way to really solve it. It's a lose-lose situation. You can either release everything all at once and have someone like us and you do it in like 10 seconds, or you can time gate it and have people be mad that they can't do all of it. You can't really.
I would rather do it all. And
Me
then
too.
Be done.
Yeah.
Because then I can go play something else.
Yeah, you're not waiting. After going through years of seasons and episodes now, and I'm curious to see how it's going to feel when they release it act by act. I'm also kind of just tired of, because then it's like you're just being held on a fish line, right? Like you just want to kind of experience it all at once and then go play Final Fantasy or whatever.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see how episodes progress. see how this one goes. I also feel like this episode came out with the expansion, and this always happened with seasons as well.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
first
yeah.
season
The
always
first
feels,
season's always bad.
yeah. Because I mean, like how, like to your point, how can you top the story that we just experienced in the final
My
shape? Like
Mike Landleader was like, I even liked Undying better than this, and I was like, bro, that's not true. That's straight up a lie.
that's
That's
illegal.
straight up a lie.
Yeah,
Undying was bad.
that's. I'm pretty sure that's an illegal opinion. Undying, like, oh my god. I don't even. The only thing good about Undying was the weapons and the enemy density. That's it.
I liked it when Ikora opened a portal into the Weasel dimension. That was kind of funny.
Yeah, it was my highlight of the week was logging on to see the portal have one more piece of metal attached to it.
Yeah, that's not really that's not really a highlight of the season though. But the fact that she turned it on and crashed the freaking servers.
Yeah,
that's just kind of silly.
Ikora shows up in the vanilla campaign to shoot one Nova bomb, disappears, comes back for Undying, open up a Weasel portal.
The game.
But Mike, we have one more question here, and that is, we kind of been discussing it passively over the course of our conversation. But what do you think is next for Destiny? How would they even be able to tell another saga? What threads are left to pull? And I put in all caps. Like, I want to go to Tor Bottle. I want to see these things that were teased in the lore. And if it's codename Frontier, I'm assuming we're leaving Soul. But are we going to eventually be fighting the Winnower? I don't think so. Not at least for a while, because it's a primordial force.
He's fundamental.
Yeah, to the universe.
There's nothing we can do about the Winnower.
Yeah, exactly. And to the I forgot his name, but the scholars, light and dark has to exist in coalescence in order for things to kind of like exist.
Ulantan.
Yeah, Ulantan. So like, I think the Winnower is gonna be annoying, but I think it knows we can't really fight it.
I want him to show up like Raphael in Baldur's Gate.
Oh my god.
I think that'd be pretty funny because they have the same energy. Like, they really do.
What would the Winnower even look like, I wonder? Like, does it even have a form, or is it just a voice?
Where a person should be.
Literally.
Like, just a silhouette. Just a model with a Vanta black texture.
Yeah. He is super black. The super black texture or shader. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but what do you think? Like, what do you think Frontiers is going to be?
Reese and Tor Bottle are the easy answers, and that's because we have existing debts to pay back on our alliances. We told Keitel we would get Tor Bottle back, so we're going, like, no matter what. I think that's definite. But the last place we saw Aramis was on a ship leaving at sublight speed towards Reese. That was what became of Aramis after Season of the Seraph. So I think that it wouldn't be out of the question to help Mithrax restore Reese. And if we go at light speed, we'll beat Aramis there. And then Aramis could show up at the end of the story to a fully restored Reese. And I think that would be a really interesting character moment for her, because all that she's done, everything that's been, like, every decision that she's made has been in the name of restoring that memory. Like, all of the Reese Reborn stuff on Europa that was made and then never, like, expanded on, all of that was her attempt to rebuild the society that the Fallen lost. And I think that that's a really powerful narrative. And I think that that's definitely something that if Bungie's paying any attention, they're going to want to pull on. But I think there's more than that. I mean, of course, Savathun is a low-hanging fruit. She's always up to something. That's what she does, that she's the god of being up to something. But there's also the precursor Exile, who is explicitly confirmed to be alive per Entelechy. So they're out there. There is a living precursor out there somewhere. And we don't know what they're doing or what's up with them. And then I would really like to kill Xivu Arath in a raid. So I know for sure that there's another raid on the horizon. I don't know what it's going to be, but I hope that it's Xivu Arath, because Xivu Arath does not deserve to be constrained to being a campaign boss. Like, yeah. I was hoping we'd get a raid for Savathun. That wasn't the case. But Xivu Arath for sure needs a raid. She's the god of war. She's the god of getting in a fight. Like, yeah.
Honestly, Savathun is not completely out of the picture either. I mean, she
That's
helped
true, I
us,
guess.
but
Yeah.
she's also, like you said, the god to fuck around and find out and up to something.
Yeah,
So
we just haven't found out yet.
yeah,
Other than that, I mean, give me Pantheon 2, please. I would like Pantheon to return for every Moments of Triumph with new stuff added. I loved Pantheon. It was such a good idea. That was literally so cool.
honestly,
I did all of it. I loved it.
I would play Pantheon if it was permanent, you know, because like
Yeah, I
I
think it
don't
should have been permanent.
like.
It's also Pantheon 5 was the only thing in the game that scaled you to contest light. So it was the only way to actually test builds for contest mode.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Unless you keep zero light gear, which if you didn't do when you had zero light gear, you can't do anymore because of light flooring. That was the only way to tank your light level far enough. Other than that, we're going to need some new names. And I think that reaching back into like the Books of Sorrow and the Deep Lore to get some more inspiration is a good idea. Like we could see Teox from the Osmium Dynasty or the other worm gods like
Yeah.
Ur, and Yul. They're still out there. And then the return of the Ahamkara, we talked about that. You know, if that goes in the Bungie hates consequences bucket, I quit. I will eat my hat.
The
Nezarek's
9,
gonna come
right?
back. You know, the 9. That wasn't even on my list. But I mean, the 9. Now that the darkness and the witness isn't eating their planets anymore, that they need to think they need those. That is their brain cells. Like they can show up and start doing stuff again.
Speaking of just fucking weird, I dropped the first F-bomb. I'm cool like that.
See, I made it through the whole podcast.
I just, because this is the weirdest thing in Destiny to me is just the 9. We had Xur since Destiny 1 vanilla, just weird tentacle
I've got something
face.
weirder for you.
And
I've got something weirder
what's
for you.
that?
It's on my list. So next on my list is Nezarek because I know coming back is what Nezarek does, right?
Mhm.
There are 4 tombs of Nezarek that we know of, which means that this is at least his 5th resurrection. So Nezarek's thing is coming back. He'll be back. He's going to be back. But an Aphelion. Do you know what an Aphelion is?
No.
I'm not surprised. They are mentioned in exactly 3 places. There's a location in the Dreaming City called Aphelion's Rest.
Oh, that's a
And
Lost Sector,
then
right?
there are 2 lore books that talk about characters that get attacked by an Aphelion. The only thing that they are aware of is a bright blue light. And then nothing. They are vaporized completely. Some amorphous thing destroys them.
Liquid Shin.
That is terrifying. I maybe I don't know. If I see any blue lights, I'll start writing. I'll become an environmental storytelling skeleton, and I'll start like writing a half-finished message. Let me get those lore books for you.
Yeah, as you're doing that though, like the 9 too, just like we had Xur do nothing besides give you stuff, and then we had the Drifter come in, and then Star Horse and a game show and giant lady that talked to Drifter. I mean, we have some good lore about them, but I'm really curious. We don't know if they're good or bad. They've just been observing.
Okay. So there are 5 mentions of Aphelions, one of which is unconfirmed. The Star Eater Scales lore tab mentions an Elixni pilot's ship malfunctioning, and then he sees the flash of blue particles, but he doesn't die. And then the Dreaming City Bambergia lore book talks about the RSS Amestris being destroyed, and only Sure Ido survived. Maracena Impotent 1 talks about Paladin Pavel Nolg's ship being destroyed by an Aphelion before executing a lightspeed jump. Aphelion's Rest is a lost sector. God, I hope it doesn't hang out there. And then in the Chronicon, Scribe Shagak refers to the Aphelion as a predator with the power to devastate worlds in the blink of an eye. And that apparently the Cabal keep an Aphelion on their Athenaeum world.
Oh, that's good.
So we have no idea what this thing is. This is one of those, they were cooking with something and then the rest of the team forgot, or it was an idea that they never uh they never latched onto.
Mhm.
But like this quote, first it shimmered, then it crawled, and then it screamed.
Ugh.
Like that's terrifying. That is
Yeah.
actually Lovecraft stuff. Like, I want this. Where is this? Put this in the game, please. This is terrifying.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes me feel like I felt while reading the Black Armory pages, man.
and then otherwise, I mean, the stuff that I've heard about D3, I kind of don't really credit, but I've heard that it's going to be any race, no classes, all abilities on the table. So you could be a hunter, air quotes, that runs Burning Maul, for example. Like, there are no
It'd be a
classes, there are
Fallen,
no
huh?
archetypes anymore. And you could be a Fallen or a Cabal or a Hive. Yeah. And so it's like, I think that's cool on paper, but I don't think that that's enough to get me to play it. I've spent 3,000 hours in this game and I'm already good at it. I have all of my best in slot gear, with the exception of some like raid god rolls and stuff.
You want to
But,
hear how easy it would be
you know,
to get me to play that? Just allow me to play a Fallen. That's all you would need to do. Like, let me play a Fallen that has also like some unique passive. Having passive abilities on races would be cool. And if they did like an all race, all classes thing, like what if you got some special passives as a Fallen? Maybe you run faster or something.
I think if I had to guess, knowing Destiny players, they would just pick the race with the best passives, and then that would be that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, they would just optimize. Like, that's the end game, is optimization. So
You're not running a Fallen build. Get out of here.
yeah, you get out of the fire team, bro. Actually trolling.
There's a lot of things left to pull. Those sound really creepy though. That is, I hope we get to see that. And if we go to Tor Bottle,
Yeah,
then maybe.
I don't know. Let's think. Who else is that? Otsot.
That I'm telling you, man. That they made that story warm again with the quest and Final Shape.
Oh yeah.
They expect, because you do the strike again for one of the Ghost Micah 10 quests, like when you're preparing for the raid.
I don't think I've, or if I did that one, I was just speed running so fast that I don't remember.
There's new dialogue at the end of the strike, because you know how when you do it normally, the Ghost is like, "Who's Otsot? What's whatever?" Like, there's logs have been.
Oh yeah. No, I definitely haven't done that yet.
Yeah, then can I tell you, or do you want to? Because it's for Micah 10.
You can hit me.
Okay, yeah. When you do the Micah 10 version of that strike for her quest, there's new dialogue saying that new logs were accessed by Otsot. And I don't remember what the rest of the quote was, but they made that entire thread very warm again. So I'm sure that's on the horizon. Also, the 9...
If you recall, Otsot was one of the conspirators.
Yes.
He was one of the guys in the Midnight Coup. So, I mean, he's a big deal.
Totally. I'm excited to see that. And I forgot. My brain's too tired. I forgot what I was going to say originally. Oh yeah, the 9 the 9 are suggested. I can't confirm or deny this, but the 9 are suggested to play a part in episode 3. I believe it's either 2 or 3.
That's supposed to be
episode 3 is the one we know little to nothing about, other than that we're going back to the Dreadnought, which is yes, please.
Yeah. And we get to drive the Dreadnought.
They said something interesting that I don't know. Bife pointed it out. I don't think too many people are thinking about it, but they said that in episode 3 there's going to be a new I can't pronounce this word. Malevolent eldritch force that appears that has never been seen before.
Hey, I have one. I have a malevolent eldritch force for you, Bungie. They're called Aphelions. Please, they scare me so good.
I'll make sure to at Bungie when I post this on Twitter.
Do it. Yeah, at Bungie on Twitter.
At Bungie help. I'll tag the help page. Bungie help us add these into the game. No, that'd be cool though. We need more scary things. I think the Scorn are like the only thing that were added that were scary originally.
No, I don't think so.
Screebs, man.
I look at Screebs and I go, "Oh, gee, Screebs! Oh, gee, Screeby!" And like my brain ceases to function when Screebs are around. I'm like, that's peak. That's peak evolution right there. That is the end state of evolution is Screebs. It all comes down to Screebs.
I think
Screebs are the best, bro.
Screebs is Bungie representation of what Destiny players are in canon. That's what we look like
Bro,
to them.
give me the unstoppable overload barrier Screeb. That's what I want.
That's traumatizing. It just chases you forever. But
Yes.
I get that was all the questions I had. I'm curious, are you going to be sticking around for Project Frontiers? Like, where now? Because I know since Final Shape, I'm sure a lot of veterans are going to be retiring. I haven't really checked, but do you think you're staying
I
around, or
mean,
are you
if
going to be
there's
a
a
more
raid,
casual observer?
if there's a raid, I might. It depends on what my team does. I mean, really, I just right now I don't feel really super compelled to play the game. But
I gotcha.
if it comes to be that there's a new raid on the horizon, which I've heard that it's Scourge is the reprised raid.
Wrath.
Scourge.
Oh, Scourge.
Yeah, Scourge of the Past.
I want
So
Wrath. I will die on that hill.
I have heard that that's the reprised raid that's coming back. I think that there's some achievements in the API that are related to Scourge.
I'll definitely
That
try
weren't
it.
there before.
I
So
actually haven't even got to clear that raid. That's the one raid I never
I
even
think
did at all.
I think that if my team were to do that, that would be one that we might not even need to train for it. Like I got the flawless of that way back. I got my always on time legit. Like you used to have to do a chest puzzle and hit buttons while a blazed glory was chasing you during the sparrow race, and then you had to get up the pipe and into a side passage where you were still vulnerable and get the sparrow from a chest and then get out before a blazed glory killed you. That was the original way to get always on time,
Jeez.
and I got mine legit, so I mean I'm ready.
I will die on the
I
hill
know
for
my CAPs.
I will die on the hill that I really want Wrath of the Machine, but
Everybody I know who played D1 wants Wrath.
I don't know what
I
is
never
in the
played it, so I don't
engine.
know.
Literally, it's so good. I mean, I
Okay, I don't believe them
yeah, I don't know
when they
what's in
say
the
that it's
engine.
technical limitations. They
They made
made
Verity.
Verity.
Yeah. If
Like
there's
if they made Verity, they can do it.
yeah,
Like it's possible. That
like
just means they don't know how to do it.
yeah, they don't know how to do it, or they don't want to add anything related to Siva textures back into the game because
Which I mean, they hate Siva. I know for sure that one of them came out and said like we're never gonna do
I don't
Siva
know why
again.
they Siva kind of hit though,
I don't
man.
know. I
Siva
mean,
fucking hit.
I don't know.
I'm sad about that. But anyway, yeah, I Destiny, it's been a 10-year ride. I'm probably going to stick around because I mean Destiny made me want to be a writer, but I'm curious to see what the rest of these episodes are going to play
It's
out.
also, I mean, the only game in the
Like it?
science fantasy
Yeah.
space, like other than Warframe, which its 1999 update looks really good, but I kind of Warframe mishandled its story as well. This isn't a Warframe podcast, but they also did things that made me really mad, and I just stopped playing after that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's possible that it could go either way. Warframe could come back. Bungie could offend me so bad that I stop playing. Like, you never know. We just don't know yet. We're not there.
We don't know. Yeah, the
But as
future.
for right now, I mean, I think it's pretty safe to assume that it's going to be, status quo. If you liked last year, you're probably going to like this year.
Exactly, yeah. To what you said before, this is a Bungie untethered. We're going into something we haven't seen since basically Destiny Vanilla, so ultimately, time will tell. So is there anything else that you wanted to ask? Anything you wanted to bring up before you round it out? Also, congratulations for being the longest episode I've ever had.
I want to put you on the spot. How am I going to do that? Yeah, I want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, it's going to be a good question.
How do I do that? What do you think is the most impactful thing that Destiny could do to elevate its experience to the next level? And I mean that in any regard. You could answer narratively, you could answer in terms of gameplay, but what do you think that it'll take for Bungie, for Destiny as a property to really take the next step in its own evolution? What does that look like to you?
That is a fantastic question. That is a really good question. Honestly, my gut tells me go full RPG. I would love to see Destiny embrace the MMO title instead of like what I say an MMO light. I would love to see it have the classes, have traits, just like go full MMO, like lean into that shit. I think that would be something to change the game for me and elevate it. It would have to be like a complete and utter. We would have to redefine what Destiny is in our minds to have that. But in the perfect world, seeing a full MMO Destiny, like
That
Elder
would be pretty
Scrolls
cool.
Online, World of Warcraft. Oh yeah, 100%. I would love it.
I think that would be very interesting as well. I mean, I think more on the RPG side, where it's more character progression focused and you can really kind of make your guardian your own versus existing in these archetypal spaces that have been carved out for you. I think
Yeah.
that would be something that's really interesting. So do you want to hear the saddest news that I've ever heard about related to Destiny?
Sure. Would be
All of the
crippled.
multimedia projects are canceled.
Oh no, really? That
Yeah. So what had happened was Sony was so angry that they took all of their people back, in terms of the ones that they had assigned for franchise adaptation into like animation and movies and all that. All those people are gone now. So
that
the
sucks.
multimedia push is dead, which sucks because, like I said, like this universe is one of the few mainstream products that I've ever seen that really embraces the science fantasy mantle in all of its like enormity, where you have science fiction that matters and you have fantastical elements that feel like they're cohesive and not out of place. You know, usually when you have something that straddles genres in this way, it kind of it doesn't fit. It's discordant with its own like internal consistency. Whereas Destiny is not. Destiny fits together really nice. And I think that it might be worth their time if they're not going to expand into multimedia, if we're never going to see the arcane equivalent, for this universe. If we got a game that was smaller scale, that was, single player, where you could really live up that power fantasy, but
Mhm.
also play somebody totally new, where you're not the guardian, but you're actually playing a character. One of my favorite games in recent memory was Jedi Fallen Order, because Jedi Fallen Order not only felt great to play, it was everything that I liked about the Jedi Academy games and Dark Souls. I guess Sekiro, really, but I hadn't played Sekiro then, so I didn't know. But it's Jedi Academy meets Sekiro, and it's really really fun. But also the story is so personal and thematic, and it touches on a lot of these ideas that we'd never seen in mainstream Star Wars media really before. And so I think that this universe could really do with a game like that, where we just dig into a character or a group of characters and experience fully a story that is contained and tight and different, but most importantly, emotionally resonant. Because that, I think, is what Destiny as like a franchise is missing the most, is that it doesn't feel like emotionally powerful.
Yeah, totally agree.
Um,
I think if movies, even TV shows would have like a Destiny equivalent to the Bad Batch Star Wars animated. I
would have
think
been
that's what it's
crazy,
called.
dude. Would have been
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, 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 yeah.
No, that's
Like Arcane is so good. I thought of playing League, and then I very quickly thought better of
Arcane was so
But-
good, it literally stopped me from giving up being a writer because I was about to.
Arcane is great. You want to know something funny about Jedi Fallen Order and Arcane, by the way, that
Sure.
relate to Destiny? So Lakshmi 2 plays the
Oh
constable
yes, yep.
in Arcane, and Savathun it plays your mentor in Jedi Fallen Order. She
hilarious.
plays the fallen Jedi master that you learn from.
All of a sudden,
I forget what her name is.
Savathun,
but yeah, that's Savathun.
Crosses game, she appears in that. Be like, haha, I was actually this person.
Well, that's where she was when she was possessing Osiris.
Oh, that's so true.
That's where the rest of her power was. She was canonically in Jedi Fallen Order.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for having this. Thanks for coming on with me. Thanks for having this conversation with
brother.
me. Great time.
I'm sorry if any of my takes or inaccuracies get you hate mail on the internet.
It's okay.
If anybody cares to find me to get hate mail, just so you know, if I don't at least share one mutual friend or a server with you, I block you immediately because I assume you're a spam bot. So good luck getting to me. Ha 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 ha.
Love
I'll
it.
Take my hot takes all the way home.
Yeah, you got to stand by those hot takes. I do. I let you know this ahead of time because I wanted to see if you can think of something unique. But this, to everyone listening, this man over here, the real Shin, can do the best Drifter impression I've ever heard in my life. And Borderline, if Borderline could just be like a stunt double or something for Drifter, if they ever needed it. So I want to end this episode with like a Drifter voice line for me.
Oh, brother, you're really gonna put me on the spot like that? Come on, man. You gotta warn a guy. Just ain't right what you're doing. Don't tell me that you've not had problems when you're trying to perform on the spot, friend. I know you have. You can't hide from old Drifter.
Perfect.
I don't know.
That's amazing. No, that was good. That was good. Hit him with a transmat firing and we'll close it out with that.
Transmat firing.